Yep, so overall, was not the election that Republicans were hoping for and Democrats feared.
Yeah, a lot of politicians, pundits, they had their predictions, but it was the voters who had their say. So let's discuss some of the key trends here. Suzanne Chad is a political science professor at North Central College and joins us now. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we've got a president with low approval ratings. We've got high inflation. Historically, the midterms punished the party in power. Back when Obama, with his first midterm, he called it a shellacking. So why do you think this wasn't as bad for Biden's party as so many people expected?
It's a great question, and I would say there's two things that we know so far. The first of which is that the preliminary exit data polling, which they'll still need to wait and do some maneuvering to get it final, suggests that voters were not thinking of President Biden when they cast their ballots. This referendum on the existing president, the sitting president, has been a narrative that we use a lot, and some of it is to try to offset some potential lack of support for the president, so let's push them out to go just in case. But really, what we're seeing so far is that President Biden, his likability, his approval was not a factor in the minds of voters when they went to the polls. The second thing quickly I would note is that elections are close now. The margins of majority between the chambers are very small because it really is about who turns out. So these big wave, massive change in party control in elections, just based on the structure of partisanship in the electorate, it's not really realistic anymore.
Interesting. Now, as we still kind of sort out what this will mean for the balance of power in Washington, we're still waiting on a couple of key race results. I want to ask you, Suzanne, how former President Trump figured into this particular midterm. How did his people do, and what might this mean for potential Trump presidential re-election run?
Yeah, this was one of the biggest questions coming into last night that we were wondering, is that a lot of Trump-backed Republicans won primaries and were running in elections, running against more moderate or more establishment, I guess we could call it, Democrats. And a lot of them did not fare very well. And some of this is what the Republican Party really needs to do. And this was mentioned in the piece you just ran by a Republican strategist is, the party is supposed to be an institution that's a gatekeeper that helps decide which candidates are best suited to win races. And the Republican Party has really failed at that since 2016 because of President Trump's grip on the voters. And it's time, I think, for the Republican Party to step up and really take some strong positions and put some money behind candidates that will serve their interests to get control of Senate seats, to get control of House seats. And then that does, if that's a decision that's made, that will affect President Trump's decision, or maybe he's made it already, about running in 2024. And then the Republican Party's move about whether they'll support him or not if he makes that decision.
As you talk about problems within the Republican Party, I was at Sean Casten's campaign event last night, and he was saying just because one of the major parties is having its demise does not mean that it is also the demise of American people. He was saying just because people vote differently, they're not bad people, encouraging his supporters to be like, let's reach out, find ways to make this a less polarized country. Do you think that's a possibility for our country right now?
I appreciate Representative Casten. I appreciate what he said. I think it's an important narrative for sitting elected officials to talk about reaching across the aisle, bridging those gaps. But the reality is that even the voters talk a big game and say, we want bipartisanship, we want people to work together. But honestly, we just want our side to win. And so reaching across the aisle sometimes means we lose a little bit of what we want. And we are just not in a place as voters where we're willing to give up on stuff. And until both elected officials and voters are willing to give up a little bit to get some progress, we're going to stay exactly where we are.
Very well stated. All right, Suzanne Chad from North Central College, we appreciate your time and perspective this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you both so much. Take care.
All right.